What if the love of your life was someone you never expected to meet, someone standing behind the counter of an ordinary store? This is the story of how a simple visit for bread and milk turned into a heart-touching journey of first love. Love doesn't always arrive with grand gestures or dramatic moments. Sometimes it finds you in the most ordinary places: a crowded street, a quiet park, or even a small store where you least expect it. This is a heart-touching story of first love, of how an innocent smile across the counter slowly turned into something unforgettable. Sit back, relax, and let me take you on this emotional journey. Here was nothing dramatic about the scene, and yet my heart skipped a beat. It was the way her smile appeared when she noticed a customer, the way her eyes sparkled even when she was simply doing her work. For a second, I almost forgot why I came there. The store was filled with shelves and products, but in that moment, it felt like everything blurred out, and she was the only person in focus. I quickly reminded myself of the reason I came to buy groceries. But every step I took closer to the counter, I could feel the nervousness rising. My palms were sweaty, my mind was racing, and I couldn't stop myself from stealing glances at her. When it was my turn, she looked up and asked, "What would you like?" In the softest voice I had ever heard. It was such a simple question, but I almost stumbled on my words. Somehow, I managed to mumble the items, and she noted them down, moving with calmness and ease. She placed the things in a small bag and handed it to me with a smile. That smile, it wasn't forced. It wasn't just customer service, it felt genuine, warm, and kind. And in that brief exchange, something sparked inside me. I walked out of the store with my bag of groceries, but also with a heart that felt strangely light, as if I had discovered something new. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. It was just one meeting, one glance, one smile, but it was enough to leave an impression deeper than I could explain. The next day, I found myself making excuses to go back. Did I really need another loaf of bread? Did I really run out of snacks? Maybe not. But somehow, I convinced myself each time that there was always something I had forgotten. And every visit, I would find her there, behind the counter, her presence brightening the little shop like sunlight through a window. Slowly, those small exchanges turned into moments I eagerly waited for. Sometimes it was just a hello, sometimes a casual, "How was your day?" And sometimes just a shared smile that said more than words could. Days turned into weeks, and by now, the store wasn't just a store to me. It had become a place where my heart raced, where my thoughts wandered, and where I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. One evening, the store was quieter than usual. There weren't many customers, and for the first time, I had a chance to talk to her a little longer. I gathered my courage and asked, "Do you work here every day?" She looked at me with surprise but smiled again. "Most days," she replied softly. That tiny conversation opened the door to more. Each visit became a little more personal. She told me about how she was helping her family run the shop, how she loved reading books during the quiet hours, how she dreamed of studying further but had responsibilities to take care of first. I listened, not just with my ears, but with my heart, because every word she spoke carried a piece of her world. And somewhere in between those conversations, I realized I wasn't just visiting a store anymore, I was visiting her. There were moments when I caught myself smiling for no reason, moments when I stayed awake at night, replaying her laugh in my head. It felt innocent, pure, almost like the kind of love we read about in old stories, the kind that doesn't need grand gestures, just simple connections. But love isn't always easy, even when it's innocent. I began to wonder, does she feel the same? Am I just another customer to her, or am I someone she waits to see, just like I wait to see her? That question haunted me for days. One rainy evening, I decided to find out. The streets were wet, and the air smelled of earth. I walked into the store, my heart pounding louder than the raindrops outside. She was there, arranging some items on the shelf. When she looked up and saw me, her face lit up not just with a polite smile, but with something softer, warmer. And in that moment, I felt a strange courage. I bought a few things, but instead of leaving right away, I paused. "Can I ask you something?" I said, my voice trembling slightly. She tilted her head, curious. "Yes." I took a deep breath. Do you ever feel like some people come into your life for a reason? Like, even a small meeting can mean something more? For a second, silence filled the store, and I regretted saying it. Maybe it was too direct. Maybe I was overthinking. But then she looked at me, her eyes soft, and whispered, "I know what you mean." Those 5 words were enough to set my heart on fire. They weren't a confession. They weren't a promise. But they were something, a signal that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone in what I felt. After that day, our bond grew stronger. We still didn't say the words out loud, but every look, every smile, conversation carried unspoken feelings. She began to share more about her life, her struggles, her dreams, her favorite things. I shared mine too, and slowly, it felt less like we were two strangers, and more like we were two souls finding comfort in each other. Months passed, and the store had become my favorite place in the world. Not because of what it sold, but because of who was there. People often say love is about grand moments, about big gestures, but for me, love was in the little things. It was in the way she placed the bag of groceries in my hands. It was in the way she asked, "How was your day?" with genuine care. It was in the way her eyes held mine just a second longer than necessary. One day, as I was leaving the store, she called out softly, "Wait." I turned back, surprised. She hesitated, then said with a shy smile, "You forgot your change." But as she handed it to me, our fingers brushed against each other, and for the first time, neither of us pulled away. It was such a small touch, but it felt like electricity, like the entire world paused for just that second. And maybe that's what love is, small moments that mean everything. Our story didn't need dramatic endings or fairy tale beginnings. It was about two people who found each other in the simplest of places. The store where people came to buy daily necessities had become the place where my heart discovered something priceless. Even today, when I walk past that shop, I smile. Because that's where I learned that love doesn't always arrive with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes it arrives quietly, with a smile across the counter, with conversations that linger, with eyes that speak when words cannot. And maybe, just maybe, the best kind of love is the one that feels so natural, so pure that it doesn't need to be shouted from the rooftops. It just needs to be felt, deeply, silently, and forever.